All persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. No state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor deny to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws as stated in Section 1 of the 14th Amendment of the United States Constitution. The intention of this amendment was to grant all of these rights to the formerly enslaved people of the United States who weren't being treated equally after slavery was abolished. In the presidential election of 1820, Susan B. Anthony cast a vote and was prosecuted for voting illegally. When in court, she argued that the 14th Amendment grants women the right to vote just as much as it grants anybody else the right to vote, stating that if the 14th Amendment does not secure to all citizens the right to vote, for what purpose was the grand bold charter of the fathers lumbered with its unwieldy proportions? Susan B. Anthony's Is It a Crime to Vote speech showed the cultural, political, and social issues women faced and was a crucial part of the women's suffrage movement. When and where did it happen? So between her prosecution in November of 1872 and her trial in June of 1873, she went on a speaking tour in 29 towns in Monroe County and 21 towns in Ontario County. And that's the United States Circuit Court at Canandaigua where her trial happened. Susan B. Anthony was born on February 15th, 1820, and she was born into a Quaker family. One of their main values as Quakers was the equality of all people before God, which was a big value that instilled her passion for equal rights for everyone. Her family moved to Rochester, New York in 1845, where they were active in the anti-slavery movement. They held meetings and hosted some famous abolitionists like Frederick Douglass and William Lloyd Garrison. When in Rochester, New York, she joined a teachers union in 1848, and here she learned that the male teachers were earning $10 a month as their salary, while the female teachers only earned $2.50 a month. So all of those experiences helped fuel her strong beliefs and her passion for the fight towards gender equality. The significance of her speech then, her trial and her arrest was closely covered by the press because nobody had really done anything like that before, and that gained a lot of attention and support for the movement, which movements need support from lots of people like that to be able to make a change. Like, you can't do it on your own, you need the support of large groups of people, so that was important. And it's still significant now because while addressing that women could not vote, it also addressed other inequalities they endured, like taxation without representation, women being seen as less than men, imprisonment and hangings without a jury of their peers, as well as the custody of their children, persons, and wages being taken from them in marriage, which, if she hadn't brought those things to attention, then our society wouldn't be as equal as it is now. So that's very important for the way that our lives are today. And this is a quote that I think kind of represents that. I like how moving it is and how powerful the words she used were.
Here is no shadow of government authority over rights, nor exclusion of any from their full and equal enjoyment. Here is pronounced the right of all men, and consequently, as the Quaker preacher said, of all women to a voice in the government. And here, in this very first paragraph of the Declaration, is the assertion of the natural right of all to the ballot. For how can the consent of the governed be given if the right to vote be denied?
I liked that clip because I thought before that she quoted the preamble where it was like, "We the people of the United States," and it just kind of was a really strong part of her argument, like how can the consent of the governed be given if we can't vote? That's a really important thing, I think. So on to my rhetorical devices. The first one I chose was an antithesis. She said, "And we formed it not to give the blessings of liberty, but to secure them. Not to the half of ourselves and the half of our prosperity, but to the whole people, women as well as men." And in this, she kind of compared what the government was recognizing, so men and the half of themselves, but to what they should be recognizing, which is the whole people. And it's kind of absurd that only half get the blessings of liberty that are secured to all. The next one I chose was a hypophora. Susan said, "The only question left to be settled now is, are women's persons?" And I thought this was a very solid part of her argument as well, because clearly women are people, and by stating that, she kind of showed how it didn't make sense that it was even up for debate, and if women are people, then they should get the rights guaranteed to people in our Constitution. The next one I chose is an anaphora. She said, "It was we the people, not we the white male citizens, nor yet we the male citizens, but we the whole people." And I thought this was one of the most powerful lines in her speech. This one really moved me because she kind of stated that, like, by only giving the male citizens the right that are guaranteed to all people in the Constitution, they weren't following what our country was built on, and that our Constitution is kind of the basis of everything. So if it says that it's guaranteed to we the people, then it should be guaranteed to all the people. Finally, my ethos, pathos, and logos. Starting with logos, this was kind of the main one she used. She quoted many historical documents as well as important figures like the Declaration of Independence, the early journals of Congress, the Constitution of the United States, and the Constitution of the State of New York. And then the important figures like James Madison, Senator Sumner, Chief Judge Daniels, Associate Justice Taney, Attorney General Bates, and even more. All of these things showed that if all these people and documents had things that supported her argument and elements in them that supported what she was saying, then it was clearly a very logical argument. The ethos, her quoting of all of those things also helped establish her credibility. Clearly she knew what she was talking about. She had a lot of things to back up her argument. And she mentioned speaking directly with Benjamin F. Butler, who was a lawyer, businessman, politician, and he was the American Major General of the Union Army. So that kind of helps establish her credibility too, because he wouldn't just be talking to anybody. Pathos, she said, "By those declarations, kings, priests, popes, aristocrats were all alike dethroned and placed on a common level politically with the loneliest born, subject or serf, by them to me, as such were deprived of their divine right to rule and placed on a political level with women." This really moved me because saying that women are placed on the same political level as the lowliest born subject makes you feel bad for them, and it makes you think they should be treated differently. And it will endure because we have to remember these important figures who got us to where we are today. Giving women the right to vote upholds the beliefs of liberty and equality our country was built on, and we owe some of that credit to Susan B. Anthony. So thank you for listening to my speech.